Welcome to the Dairy News and Views podcast, a production of the Iowa State University Extension and Outreach Dairy Team. Our podcast covers current educational, research, and industry tools available for your operation to manage healthy cows and calves while producing the highest quality dairy products. Welcome to Dairy News and Views from ISU, your trusted source for the latest insights and updates in the dairy industry. I'm Jen Bentley, Northeast Iowa Dairy Field Specialist with ISU Extension and Outreach. And today we're talking about an exciting opportunity for our Iowa dairy producers in helping them to apply for the 2026 Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation Grants. These grants help fund projects that improve efficiency, sustainability, and innovation on your farm. And so today we're going to be talking a little bit more about the Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation Grants. I have with me Gail Carpenter, our State Dairy Extension Specialist with Iowa State University, and Mariah Busta, our Executive Director with Iowa State Dairy Association and Midwest Dairy. So thanks for joining the podcast.
Happy to be here, Jen.
Happy to be here. So for our listeners, some of us may not be as attuned to what these Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation Grants are, and we're kind of heading into our third year with the grants. And so, Mariah, would you kind of give us an overview of what the grants are and how producers are utilizing them?
Sure. So the Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation Grants are funded through the Iowa Department of Agriculture. The program is run through the Iowa Department of Agriculture, funded by the state of Iowa. And so these are grant opportunities that dairy farmers are able to take advantage of, and they can be used for anything on farm, from on-farm processing to labor-reducing technologies. So over the last couple of years, this is going to be the third round of funding through the program. It's been really cool to see the different variety of projects that farmers have used these grants for to help improve operations on their farm. And so really the point of these grants is to support dairy farmers, whether it's with, addressing labor needs on their farms, but then also helping get products out there to consumers. So really supporting the processing side of things too. And that kind of fits in the Choose Iowa program through the Department of Agriculture, is having more emphasis on Iowa-made and Iowa-produced products available for consumers in the state.
A lot of people might be familiar with the Choose Iowa brand, which is pretty cool. If you ever see, like at the farmer's market or in the store, anything branded with the Choose Iowa icon, it means that it was made here in Iowa. And so if you go to the Choose Iowa website, which if you apply for the grant, you will, go to the website, spend some time while you're there, click on Find Local and see what's around the state and where you are. And there's a bunch of, it's not just dairy. Choose Iowa is a lot bigger than just dairy. But today we're focusing on the Dairy Innovation Grant Program with Choose Iowa.
Yeah, it's a really pretty cool website. If you think about all the local made products that we have in Iowa, makes you have a deeper appreciation for our agriculture here in Iowa and just how much product we do put out there. And I have not been to all of these, and that's probably on my bucket list, right? Is to get to all these local places.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's so cool to see how it's grown over the years too. And even last year, they put together a map of the different locations that the farms and the places that sell Choose Iowa products. So it's just really neat to see this marketing effort being made to supporting Iowa dairy farmers and producers in general.
Yeah, and this grant has really been, over the past couple of years, something that dairy farmers have really been able to get a lot of benefits out of. Like Mariah mentioned, really the two target areas for applying for this grant are on-farm processing and labor-reducing technologies. Out of the grants that get submitted, a lot of them tend to be labor-reducing technologies. So those things that, precision technology, robotic milkers, feed scrapers, or feed pushers, alley scrapers, all of these things, that technologies that make life easier on your farm. Those are eligible for Choose Iowa, for a Choose Iowa application. It's not, you have to apply, right? And just because you apply doesn't mean you're going to get the money. So we should clarify for that. But those are all projects that would be eligible for an application to potentially get some funding. And then, of course, on-farm processing as well is a big one. So looking at investing in the equipment and materials needed to do on-farm processing or expand on-farm processing technology or capacity.
Yeah, one thing I want to add, Gail, is when you're talking about the kind of the milking systems with the robotics or the feed pushers, but also be thinking about just things within your parlor system to make you more labor efficient too, right? So maybe you have a very labor inefficient milking system right now, and you want to utilize a low cost parlor type of system as well. That's another avenue to consider too, because there's multiple ways that we can milk cows, but we want to make sure that we're doing it the most efficient way.
Yes, it's labor reducing equipment and technology is a pretty broad category. So I think the important thing to remember while you're writing those grants is make sure you're making the argument that I'm not just doing this because I want a new parlor, right? It is because this will help me be more efficient in my labor usage on farm.
I think
And new
sometimes
parlors are nice too. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mara.
I think sometimes we get caught up in what is the cap or like what is the ceiling for these grants, which is $100,000. So, you can apply for funds up to $100,000, which is a one-to-one match. But then also we don't talk about what's the floor, and really there is no floor. So even if you have a smaller project, definitely keep the Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation grants in mind. You don't have to have this big, grandiose, hundreds of thousands, multi-million dollar project. You can apply for funds for smaller, simple things that can improve your operations as well.
That's 100% true, Mariah, and I really appreciate you pointing that out. There's $500,000 available this year through the program, and if everybody just submitted a $100,000 grant, there'd only be 5 people that got it, which would be great for those 5 people. But obviously, the more the merrier. And I've reviewed these grants before. Things come in at all different levels. And I think it's really helpful to have some of those grants at the lower level, especially or lower level of the monetary request or the budget request, especially if it's a really well-written grant, because that makes it a really easy win to be able to get money to those producers. We kind of start at the top and keep going, making decisions until we run out of money. And if you're at, almost at your cap, your $500,000 cap, and there's a really good, there's a really great proposal there that's for a couple $1,000s, it makes it a really easy win to kind of sneak in and get that money for people. So yes, don't just think about the ceiling, think about the floor too. I think that's really great advice.
Mm-hmm.
So some of the details are included on that chooseiowa.com website, talking about, what's accepted and how to be eligible. And it also lists the key dates. So this is going to be right around the corner here as we're talking here. So it looks like March 1st of 2026 is when these dairy innovation grants application period opens up. And so Mariah or Gail, you want to list out some of the other deadlines as we approach that? That's the opening date. And then what happens after that?
Sure. And then on March 11th, they are having virtual office hours through the Choose Iowa program at 11 a.m. On April 17th at noon is going to be the submission deadline. So mark your calendars for April 17th at noon. And then the awards will be announced in June, which is a perfect way to celebrate National Dairy Month. But the timeline of these grants have been different every year. So just, if you're familiar with last year's process or even the year before, just please take note that this is a different time frame than it has been in the past. So I'd hate for you to miss out on an opportunity because you maybe were confused or were remembering a previous application cycle. So again, with that, the applications are due on April 17th.
It's right after tax day for those who need something to attach that date to.
And so the March 11th date is virtual office hours, and that means producers can call in with questions, or what does that mean?
Yeah, so the Idol's office will kind of host, like, just have, I'm not sure if it's a Zoom link or a call. They don't have that information up on their website yet. But they'll be there for producers to ask questions or get advice on grant writing. They've kind of, and this is where, as we're transitioning to talk about the grant writing workshops, a little bit disappointed in the turnout of people last year. And I'm going to turn my teacher voice on for people here for a sec. Um, you have office hours and then people don't show up and then they complain about how they do on the test, right? So I think they kind of felt some of the same thing last year. And yes, having one office hour on one random day might not work for everybody. But certainly if you are, if that time is open and available for you, keep an eye on the website for more information about those virtual office hours. And if not, you might be interested in attending either our grant writing workshops or Mariah. I know Midwest Dairy's got some grant writing training opportunities as well. So maybe it's a good time to talk about some of those.
Yeah. So, in addition to the grant writing support that will be available at the upcoming trainings, Midwest Dairy is also offering grant writing support through the LASSO program. So if you go to midwestdairy.com under the For Farmers tab, there's LASSO, and it's a grant writing service. What it is it's just free grant writing support. And so it's a platform, or it's a group that will help you find grants that are right for you and just lead you through the grant writing process, as well as, putting together information, writing it out, and then finally submitting your application. And so they're going to help you and guide you step by step. And we've actually had several farmers in Iowa take advantage of the LASSO grant writing support, and they have been successful recipients of the Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation Grants. And so, in addition to this, this would be very helpful for the Choose Iowa grants, but they also keep a pulse on grants that are available to you that you might not even know of, or that you could qualify for that you might not even know of. So I highly recommend that you check it out. Again, go to our website at midwestdairy.com under the Farmers tab, and you'll find more information about LASSO there. Otherwise, I'd be happy to be a resource too, and you can reach out to myself or anyone on the Dairy Extension team, and we can get you the resources you need.
So LASSO is kind of more of an ongoing process, Mariah. So, I mean, they can apply for those resources or those ability to get that help or assistance versus kind of meeting some of those deadlines.
So the LASSO program is ongoing. So at any point you can, express your interest in this program and reach out to the folks at LASSO. And if you're selected for the grant writing services, they will help you again, like find the grants and walk you through the process and submit your application. So it's not on a certain like deadline or time frame. It's just kind of what works for you. It's just better to be proactive and reach out to them as soon as you can, just so you can take full advantage of the opportunities that are out there.
So along with LASSO, Gail, you kind of introduced these new grant writing workshops this year. What was kind of your impetus to start these writing workshops?
Yeah, it was actually, I was talking with somebody who works for IDOLS and Mariah at the Iowa State Dairy Association annual meeting in December, and we were talking about these upcoming grant opportunities, or the Choose Iowa grant opportunities, I should say. And yeah, we were talking about some of the grants that we've seen, some of the applications that we've seen, and kind of talking about, it seemed that there's a lot of really good grants, but there are also some farmers that I think have some really good ideas and are just maybe struggling a little bit with how to put those together in a grant that's going to be competitive, right? And so, I mean, if I had my way, I think Mariah and Jen, you would both agree with this too. If I had my way, we would just give dairy farmers all the money that we had, right? But unfortunately, that's not the reality of the world that we live in. And so we started thinking a little bit about, okay, how can we make sure that these people with great ideas are able to actually put those ideas on paper into a grant um, that is likely to get funded. And so if we, when you review, I've been a grant reviewer for this and for some other grants as well, you kind of start with ranking and scoring. And you kind of make a list of like, okay, these are the good ones and these are the bottom tier ones. And we'd like to be able to move that bottom tier up, but we'd really also like to be able to take those grants in the middle and just help people make a better story. So that they're sure that they're putting their best foot forward when it comes to these funding opportunities. So yeah, this is not intended to be a super in-depth workshop. Some grant writing workshops might be all day or 2 days, right? These grant writing workshops are oftentimes pretty long and pretty boring. I'm not gonna lie. So the idea here was just a 90-minute quick. We're going to talk about some easy wins to just make sure, and easy wins and common mistakes, making sure that you're writing a compelling story for your farm as you're submitting these grants. So we'll have time for some Q&A, we'll have some time for discussion, but this isn't dairy farmers are busy. You have a lot of other stuff going on. I also have to get back to Ames for class, so couldn't do anything too long in the morning. So we'll start at 8 a.m. for most of these. We'll go for about an hour and a half. Hit some basics of grant writing, and then kind of say, okay, here's your intro, here's the bare minimum that you need for a successful grant, and then how can you move it from okay, I've got the basics down, and take it a step up. And I haven't just written a good grant, I've written a great grant, something that the reviewers will remember, something that they're going to want to give me money for.
I would just jump in and say that I would really encourage you to join and participate in these workshops, because these grants are very competitive. Even though it is just limited to the state of Iowa, this isn't a federal grant by any means, but they are still very competitive. Last year, 15 projects were awarded through this, but there were 33 applications. So less than half of them were awarded funding. So it is very competitive. So if you are going to invest the time in putting together an application, I think it's worth making sure that it can be truly the best it can be. So it just increases your chances of success in this program.
That's exactly right. And unfortunately, there's actually less money available this year too. So last year it was 750,000, and then this year it's 500,000. So yeah, this is a great opportunity. But like Mariah said, it can be pretty competitive. But that doesn't mean that it's a particularly hard grant to write. So I'm somebody who a big part of my job is just sitting down and writing grants and hoping some of them get funded. And I've written, 25-page narratives before with citations and references, and put together all of the supporting documentation I need for USDA grants. And when I compare some of those grants to the Choose Iowa grant, it's competitive, but I don't think it should feel overwhelming for you or for dairy producers. I think it's manageable. A big part of what we want people to think about is just preparing in advance, right? Don't write this the night before. Think about what you're looking for. Take the time to get some of that supporting documentation. Write your proposal. Have somebody else read your proposal and give you feedback. And all of those things take time. So if you start it early, that's actually a pretty big step for people. A pretty big first step for people when it comes to writing a really good grant.
And
I will say that as somebody who does things at the last minute all the time, don't do that.
And while the applications aren't available yet, and they won't be available until March 1st, there's still a lot of information on the Choose Iowa website as far as the scoring criteria. So you can go ahead and look right now at the rubric to kind of help you figure out how to apply, what they're going to be scoring on, to kind of help you get there and put your application together. So I mean, don't wait until the applications are open on March 1st. Take a peek now.
That's right. And actually, if you scroll all the way down, there's the page for this grant in particular is chooseiowa.com/grants/dairy innovation. At the bottom of that page is the program guidelines handout. And if you click on that, it opens a 9-page PDF. This is the in the weeds, right? And if you go to the appendix on that 9-page PDF, it actually has a list of all the questions you're going to have to answer. So it walks you through right there, not just the scoring criteria, but also these are the questions that I'm going to have to answer when this grant opens. So it gives you some time to think about it, think about what documentations you might want, think about what sorts of projects you'll be applying for, potentially even talking to your dealer if you're interested in a specific technology, right? Reaching out to get some of those quotes and maybe to get a letter of support from your bank or your dealership or wherever you're thinking about sourcing some of these technologies from, and starting to think about how you might answer all of those questions. So by the time it gets to March 1st, hopefully you have a pretty good idea of what you need to do and what you're going to say on this application. And then you have a chance to write a rough draft, have somebody else maybe send it to a couple, a cousin or somebody else in your family, or one of our regional dairy specialists or your nutritionist or whoever it is. Have them take a look and give you some feedback. And then finally submitting before, again, April 17th deadline for that application to be due.
And Gail, you set these grant writing workshops fairly in advance, right? So they're coming up the end of January, beginning of February. So that I would use those kind of as your launching pad to get you thinking about it. And if you attend those workshops, that gives you a little bit more time to start your thought process on it. So can you tell us what those dates are?
That was the date I should have pulled up. I know it's January 28th is the first one. 2 dates in February. I was about to tell you Dairy Days dates. That's why I needed to pull this up. Yep. So on January 28th, again, these all start at 8 a.m. But on January 28th, we're going to be meeting at the Sioux County Extension offices in Orange City. On February 4th, we're going to be at Northeast Iowa Community College in Kalmar. And then on February 18th, we're going to be at the Delaware County Fairgrounds at their community center there in Manchester. So we kind of tried to hit some of those core dairy areas around the state. Hopefully there's a location and a time that works for you. And if there isn't, I'm also more than happy to answer questions or give feedback. Not give feedback, I won't review your grants in advance. But if you have questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free to reach out and let me know.
Yeah, and we'll include those dates and registration link in the show notes here today. So if people are interested, they could just check that out and pick a site that's close to them.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up here, any last comments from Mariah or Gail on the Choose Iowa Dairy Innovation Grants? If you have a producer that might be on the fence of applying, what would you tell them?
I would just say go for it. I would say that, take a look, evaluate your farm and your needs, and figure out if there is a way that these grants can help support it. There's money out there available, and this program is to help dairy farmers and help dairy processing at a smaller scale. And so I really, really encourage you to don't overlook this project. And if you're nervous about the time commitment or even the requirements of the grant, reach out and talk with somebody at the Iowa Department of Agriculture, because they might have advice or tips or can walk you through this. So again, these grants are out there to help dairy producers, so definitely take advantage of the opportunities out there.
Yeah, and I just add to that, I think that, yeah, absolutely. If you're on the fence about it, go for it. Hopefully we haven't scared anybody away as we've been talking about writing these grants, right? When I talk about supporting documentation, that sort of thing, maybe that starts to feel like a lot of work, but really it's not any more work than you'd normally do for a project this size, right? You're probably going to go to your bank or you have some cash in hand. or you're going to talk to a dealer and get a quote, right? A lot of these steps you're already going to take if you're going to be investing in either labor reducing technology or on-farm processing. And so just maybe this should be your nudge to kind of take the leap and just go for it. I don't know very many dairy farmers that don't have a list of ideas of things they'd like to do in their head if they had a little extra money. And this could be your opportunity to have a little extra money to start working on some of those ideas.
Well,
and just a logistical note too. Sorry, this is like just a small tip. I mentioned working with your bank or your lender, especially for these smaller projects. You might already have cash in the bank, and you might just want to pay for it. The 1-to-1 match. You might want to pay for your part of that 1-to-1 match in cash. And so a great thing to include that strengthens a lot of applications is just get a note from your bank, like just a letter from your bank signed by your lender saying, yes, this farm has had a relationship with us for this many years, and they have funds available to be able to cover this. So that's all you need. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of paperwork and documentation, especially for some of those smaller projects.
That's a good tip to end on, Gail. So
yes.
Thanks for providing that. And both of you, thanks for the information that you provided here today. I think that really sets the stage for our producers to get them thinking about some of these grant opportunities in the upcoming year and the years to follow. We want to thank our listeners today, and we want to be sure that our listeners subscribe for more updates and resources to keep your operation thriving. And until next time, my tip today is reminding you that innovation starts with preparation. So thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks.
This institution is an equal opportunity provider. For the full non-discrimination statement or combination inquiries, go to www.extension.iastate.edu/diversity/ext.